Right then, is everyone having fun?
Yeah!
Cool, because here's where it stops. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know me, my name is Tom and I am Damien's best man. And before I take the customary duty of giving Damien an uncomfortable few minutes, I'm going to say thank you to the little cute people that we said thank you today, Michael, Ruby and Charlie. And of course the bridesmaids, Sarah, Zoe and Laura, for having them play a part in this wonderful day today. I think you agree, they all look absolutely wonderful and have done an excellent job and are only eclipsed by Jadine herself. And Damien, he don't look too bad, does he? Even if he did copy me suit. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Pauline and Pete, Maureen and Mike for such a wonderful day so far. We'll reiterate this setting is absolutely beautiful and it's so historical. It reminds me of how history repeats itself, really. I mean, it was only 24 years ago that Jadine was going to bed with a dummy. I hope everyone's ready for a great day today anyway. We've got plenty of people from far away today. We've got people from Ireland in today. And we've got people from Australia in today. It's amazing how far people will travel for an open bar. Anyway, this brings me to the low point of today's proceedings, my speech. And in starting to write this speech, I wanted to ask myself, what is a wedding? Well, the Oxford English Dictionary defines it as the removal of unwanted plants from a garden. But that didn't seem so think about it. That seemed relevant to what Damien wanted to Damien, so I wanted to use an analogy more up his sleeve. As some of you may know, Damien likes to play poker. Those who play with him knows he likes to play poker badly. So it should suit marriage fine, because marriage is just like a pack of cards. I mean, it starts with 2 hearts, then there's a diamond, and it usually ends with a club and a spade. I'd just like to say, Damien, you're a lucky man today. You leave here gaining a partner that's warm, loving, funny and beautiful. And Jadine, you're lucky too. You're leaving here gaining a nice dress and some flowers. And what can I say about Damien? What can I say about this man? We're as close as brothers. There is nothing that I wouldn't do for Damien, and there's nothing that he wouldn't do for me. In fact, we spend most of the time doing nothing for each other. But to get a different perspective on Damien, I spoke to a few of his mates at the Halifax, gave him a ring, and you're surprised to know what they went and said about him. They said he was like godlike. He's never seen. He makes his own rules. And if he does do any work, it's considered a miracle. They also described him as a first-class banker, but the line was very good. Some of the words you could use to describe Damien is charming, intelligent, entertaining, but nobody used those, so neither will I. He was, however, in my research, described, and I quote, as arrogant, conceited, insensitive, and selfish. Hard to believe, but if anyone's going to know him, it's going to be his mum. She also told me he was a slight slow starter. At play school, he was a bit different to all the other kids, all the other 5-year-olds. He was 11. But in all the time, nobody has ever questioned Damien's intelligence. I never actually mentioned it. The first time I met Damien, we were both working on hospital radio. I remember he dashed into my debut show with these pants round his ankles, trying to put me off. In those days we called it high jinks, and these days they call it Operation U-Tree. Both of us had dreams of being the next big thing on the airways, but Damien got the first big break doing a mobile disco lead for a bloke who owned several turntables and a few sets of them horrible disco lights. Soon he brought me on board and we were doing birthdays, Christmas parties, the like, and it was a Christmas party that I remember most, that we just finished work and we dropped off by the guy who was running the DJ thing, and we ended up going to Damien's house, and it was in the middle of winter. We went down Damien's drive, snow-laden, and I always remember this because I remember it as the Damien Dance of Doom, which I'd like to demonstrate now. I've lost my keys. You what? I've lost my keys. Has anyone seen that film Alive? You know, like it's snowy. Well, if I'd have been smart right then, I should have killed him, eaten his body and waited for help. That part's long enough for him to utter the words, "Don't worry, I'll go to my gran's. I know a shortcut." I know a shortcut. If Damien Sean Kenny ever says, "I know a shortcut" to you, run, hide, dig a hole and bury yourself in it. Because I guarantee you'll get to your destination quicker than using the Kenny shortcut. In this case, the shortcut involved us tracking through a pitch-black, snow-laden forest instead of walking down a parallel, well-lit, gritted footpath 100 yards away. You know, earlier I said, has anyone seen Alive? Well, has anyone here seen The Lord of the Rings? Story about two short asses who go on an arduous journey? In that story, the main protagonists are aided with food and weapons from the elves. The Frodo and Sam in this story were carrying rucksacks full of records and dressed in Miami Vice suits. And although we won't head into a volcano to toss a piece of jewellery in it, I think there's a couple of times I invited Damien to kiss my ring of power along the way. I can't remember when I stopped feeling my feet, but I do remember finally getting to Damien's grand's house, and her light was on, and bless her, she made us both a full English, and until this day it's still the best breakfast I've ever had. I don't mind admitting I could have cried, but my tear ducts were frozen. But that's Damien for you. He was there in the frozen forest. He was there when the council made me homeless. He was there when I failed my GCSEs. He was there when my first serious girlfriend dumped me. That's what Damien is to me. Bloody jinx. But that's what he is to me. How can I explain him to the rest of you? How can I explain a man like Damien, with all the respect due to a man on his wedding day? How to strike the right tone of praise and warmth. You see, Damien is a man who truly defies description. I could speak for hours and hours, and when I've finished, we'll be no longer closer to grasping the essential essence of my very, very dear friend. Yet, miraculously, it can be very neatly summed up in a single internationally recognised hand gesture. And as for our beautiful bride today, I remember the first time J. Dean came to work at the nightclub me and Damien were at. Damien was the manager, and he'd been interviewing for a new glass collector. J. Dean was on a shortlist of 2, with the other candidate being a fat bald bloke with flaky skin. If he could have stacked more pint pots, today could have been very, very different. On the first night, I remember Damien coming up to me on the DJ stand and saying, "Keep an eye on him." Which was harder than it looked. Have you seen the size of her? And we had a rugby team. But that was the start of Damien looking out for J. Dean, which will now last a lifetime. I remember him telling me that he was going to ask J. Dean to marry him. And I don't know if it was the fear of the grief he'd get off me and the rest of the poker boys that she'd say no, that he chose Sydney to ask her in. But she said yes, and that's why we're all here together. So, in closing, I'd like to say this. No one could ask for a better friend. Someone I can always rely on to be there in the future, because you've always been there in the past, mate. There's an old saying that goes something like, good friends are just brothers and sisters God forgot to put together, and I can't think of something more appropriate to describe me and you, mate. I'm so so happy that you found yourself with one of the sweetest, kindest, most beautiful people I've ever had the honour to know and call a friend, your wife, JD. And before I offer the toast to you both, I'd like to do something. In fact, if you're here today with a partner, you can do this as well. It's the best advice I can offer any couple. Turn, face each other, and look deep into each other's eyes. It's serious, this. Know that this person is number one in your life. Nothing else matters but loving them and making them happy as much as you can. Why? Because statistically you're looking at the person most likely to murder you. Ladies and gentlemen, to the bride and groom! Bride and groom!
To all of you, thank you.